What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. BobbyFi, the man, Eric Tabor. Coming off not a great NBA night for me. I've had a bunch of Jaylen Brown on FanDuel that cost me probably profiting over there. And the injury in the first quarter was not helpful. I had some good lineups and some that weren't so good. It looked like I was going to make a good amount of money on DraftKings in the last minute. I lost a couple thousand to and me leaving me like down a few $100 on, I don't know, a few $1,000 instead of being up a couple thousand. But whatever. Sheets, how did you do? And then let's get into the big slate today. We've got a big.
I did not do well in the in daily fantasy, but I played really heavy on that spread bet that I gave out.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, the Brooklyn, they almost won it outright.
Yep.
So we almost didn't need the 8 points, but they were in that right from the beginning, and we laid out the thesis behind that, etc. So. And I played that's the most I've actually bet on like a sporting event like a while. So I was happy with that. And I'm going to be participating tonight in the 2,500 as well. So we will we'll try to make heads or tails of this. Well, just let me share my screen and we'll just kind of get.
We'll go game by game because it's at the very beginning. It's actually the kind of slate that I sort of like. I'm like, oh, this is a tough slate, but at the same time, I kind of like these tough slates. So I'm actually a little bit excited that it's going to be a little bit of a tougher slate today. For such a big tournament. All right, so let's jump into it with Charlotte and Cleveland. You can start off if you have anything on the Charlotte side. I don't. I think it's going to come down to whether Garland plays or not. If Garland plays, I will be all over Garland. And I love Jared Allen. He put up 63, I think, against this team last time they faced each other. I think he's averaged 45 against them over the last 2 years. They can't guard centers, and it's not just guarding centers, it's the rebounds they give up. The size inside kills them. Allen and Mobley are both really interesting to me. And for some reason, Mobley's getting a lot more of the traction. It seems like early on, at least projection wise. I would say that I would take some shots here, but with either of them. But I really like Jared Allen. What are your thoughts on this game?
On the Charlotte side, I don't have anything. On the Cleveland side, you hit the three guys that I would have interest in, if at all, and that would be Allen, Garland, obviously if he plays, and Mobley. We both did, I think, pretty well with Kevin Love the other day, but he's not showing up for me on this day. So for me, I'm totally in agreement with you. Jared Allen, Darius Garland to a lesser extent. I don't know if for you it's to a lesser extent, but for me to a lesser extent, Evan Mobley. But I really doubt that anything from this game is going to be in my big lineup or a major priority.
I think that, the ones for me, I'm going to have a lot of Jared Allen, but I really think that I'm like, if Darius Garland plays, I think that he's like a premium top player.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like it's too good of a matchup. They're down too many bodies. We see Brandon Goodwin putting up good games for Cleveland with 46 fantasy points the last time out, and this is the nut matchup. Darius Garland Brandon Goodwin is nothing, and Darius Garland could put up like 60 in this kind of a matchup if things break quite right. I said that I have nothing on Charlotte. I do want to throw out that they're going to be so low owned that I might mix them into a little bit of my plays as we go forward, because maybe throwing in a LaMelo at 8,500 at 1% ownership is not the worst idea on this kind of a slate, even in a bad matchup. All right, Indy and Orlando, which is a great total. Very hard to figure out. There's a lot of meh plays for me in this game. How about you?
So I risked it by saying, so early that I was not going to have any interest in the Clevelands in my big lineup, because I really didn't look. I'm going through game by game with you, and really for the first time. So I don't know. Maybe by the time we get to the end, maybe every other game is just as poor, and maybe I get back to this Cleveland guys. Like, for example, I'm looking now at the Indiana, and nothing on the Indiana side of this game seems to spring up for me, So maybe maybe this Cleveland game will hold up, but right now I don't really see too much on the Indiana side that's really standing out. And then on the Orlando side, I really feel like I should be stubborn and take another shot at Mo Bamba at 4,900. Again, this is before looking at the rest of the center position, but I think I tried this and failed with this last time. These guys just play?
Bamba put up 33.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, and he's. I mean,
that would be good.
Yeah, I think Bamba's a better play on FanDuel as always.
Yeah.
He just, you get a couple shot blocks or steal, here and there. It's just
so say the same with the bigs. It's either Bamba or Carter.
Yep.
And that would be pretty much it for me on the Orlando side.
Yeah, I do like Carter. I just we just got news this minute that Devin Booker is going to be out tonight, which is going to come into the late game stuff. But we're going to have a pretty decided. It's kind of a shame because I was going to bet on Portland to cover that game, and that spread is going to change. It's not going to be 14 anymore.
And Chris Paul is out.
Chris Paul's out already. So
oh my God,
it's going to be a pretty interesting situation to try to figure that one out. Yeah, and it's going to make me
without even looking. It's going to be Cameron Payne 80% on, right? I mean,
yeah, but we don't. I mean, Cameron Payne is just coming back. You know what I mean?
Is Elf Payton on that team?
Yeah, but I don't know how much. I mean, as of right now, I don't even have him projected to play a minute.
Right now I have Booker in, so you know what I mean. So I don't even know what I have projected for.
Aaron Holiday,
Cameron Payne. 4,300. He's going to be 75% on.
As of right now, I would tend to agree with you, but I would wait I'm curious to see how the starting lineup shakes out too. We'll probably won't even get it till way after all these other games locked, but that's going to be a big point on the slate. Sheet, I want to ask you about your Knicks in Philadelphia. I guess you can RJ Barrett is sort of making like that year 3 leap. Like he does look really good and he's been extremely aggressive. I don't think his usage is 38% and 35% the last two, or 34% and 38% the last 2 games. I don't mind it, but I don't think I'm going to do anything in this game. I'm not going to ever argue if you want to play Embiid or Harden. I would probably lean Embiid, I guess. But Harden has been unbelievable in his first 2 games in terms of efficiency. Even while the usage hasn't been there, he put up 80 fantasy points on 14 shots the other night.
Did he really?
Yeah. And 58 in his first game. And they looked good. They hammered. They've been really, really good with these guys. I think there is some blowout risk here because Philly, when they're cruising, if these guys are hot, they can smoke anybody. And I think Tyrese Maxey is a long shot play. I just don't feel good about any of the plays in this game. How about you?
Yeah, I like Embiid. I really don't have too much on the Knicks side, but on the Philly side, I think that Embiid is one of the top spend ups on the slate. I mean, between him, Giannis, and Jokic, and I guess Harden. But I like Embiid here. So I guess that's the best. My analysis is I like Embiid and nobody else in this game.
Yeah, and to be honest, Harden has been pretty deferent. Like that's the way he's gonna. I mean, he had 16 assists in the last game. Harden, it's gonna be Embiid's sort of. The thing is, Embiid loses some assist upside because of Harden being there. Probably loses some rebounding upside, to be honest with you. And his rebounds are a little bit down the last few games anyway. It's hard for me at the similar price at 10-8 on FanDuel. I think I can do it, but I don't know that it's going to be that easy of a play, especially like it's not a good matchup. It's fine. It's just I don't know how we're going to rate him compared to Giannis or Jokic and all those guys. It's hard for me with Harden there and the most healthy team in the NBA, Philadelphia, just to load up on that. That's just where I'm at a little bit. Utah and Houston, obviously you got to hope this one stays close if you want to play a lot of these really good plays here. What are you doing in this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to play Donovan Mitchell. If I can get, I'd say if I get away with it, I can get away with it. I mean, he's only 8,800 against Houston. Will the game stay close? I don't know. Maybe, maybe it won't. But I've seen Mitchell play into some blowouts. So I like him, and I like Gobert. And yeah, I guess I would like to run it back with a Houston guy. I don't know exactly who that would be. Christian Wood. I don't know. Kevin Porter Jr. Who's showing up as a really good value play
Garrison Matthews
is Garrison Matthews. I'm not going to make my Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert exposure determinative by whether I play Garrison Matthews or not. But just even on his own, I think Garrison Matthews is one of the top, like 6th or 7th best point per dollar play alongside of guys I've literally never heard of. So yeah, is it Garrison Matthews? He's I'm not playing him if he's like going to be. I'm looking at it at 20% owned. I'm not doing that.
I'm looking at 45% as an early projection. But
it could be. I'm not doing that.
I don't think it'll end up being that high, especially with the Phoenix value that's going to open up. But
right, for sure.
He's a guy. That's what I can say about him. I think you could make an argument on even in a blowout or any kind of a thing like there's always that weird, like if you're playing, this is only for the large field, but I think you could throw Josh Christopher in the mix because of Noah Gordon being there. And there's always a chance they give him some run. You can make the same with Sengun. It's just, there's a bunch of guys like this. It's going to come down to whether Kevin Porter Jr. plays is the truth. If Kevin Porter Jr. plays, I don't know what to do. I do like the game to stay closer a little bit better, but if he doesn't play, I think we go right back to Schroeder as your run back to Gobert and Mitchell. I do like Gobert and Mitchell both quite a bit. And I think Gobert could have just a monster game here. I just really worry about this one. Houston, even in a game where they're like battling last night, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're down by 25. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, they're just so bad. And they play fast though. This is going to be a tough game, but if it happens to stay close enough, I think you're gonna probably want a little bit of this the Mitchell and the Gobert especially, but I think Jordan Clarkson is the large field play that I like the best. He's 5,100. He can both help the team in blowing someone out and get extra run that way, and he's always got the heat check ability. He put up 37 in the last game against Phoenix. I could see Jordan Clarkson going kind of wild in this kind of game environment, so I do like Clarkson. All right, Miami and Milwaukee in what is without a doubt the best actual game of the night. What are you doing here? Because I have kind of a tough time because there's two guys I really want to play in Butler and Bam, and Butler has been really bad against this specific team. I'm struggling with this one. How about you?
Yeah, so let's start with Giannis. So Giannis is going to project to be one of the top spend ups, right alongside of Jokic and Embiid or whatever. But as you pointed out, over the last 11,000 times these teams have played, he just doesn't do it against Miami, and he doesn't do it in with extreme prejudice. I mean, he puts up like really, really poor fantasy scores against Miami on a regular basis. So I am not going to play him for that exact reason. Whether it's because Miami knows how to scheme him or whether he gets intimidated or whatever it is, I'm just not at 12,000 and change going to do it. Now, with that said, I don't think I'm going to play anybody else in Milwaukee either. So for me, I'm kind of with you in looking at the Miami. So I'd love to play Butler, but he's again hasn't really been in good form. I always can be talked into playing someone like Bam against Milwaukee. So he'd be the first guy of the top two, I suppose. But then you have to think about again is whether Gabe Vincent is continues to be good value. He's certainly not going to look quite as good this time as last time, but he's still going to project pretty well. So I'll throw him in my mix. So for me, I'm not going to play Giannis. I don't think. I might play some Gabe Vincent, and I'll struggle like you with what to do with Butler and Bam.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I do like Vincent a little bit, but again, I think those minutes are always a little bit in flux, and anybody can get hot. But he's one of them. He's the most likely one. He's going to play the most minutes of these other guys who can get hot. But between Duncan Robinson, Max Struss, Caleb Martin, I think you could literally make an argument for taking a shot in large fields on all of them. But like realistically, like in the 2,500, it's hard for me to outside of Vincent really have much interest. I do think it's a great potential matchup for Tyler Hero. The one thing about Giannis struggling, it's been mostly like in the postseason last year, he had some pretty big games against Miami, but it's partially the defense and how they, they've got both Jimmy Butler and Bam, who are two of the best 6 defenders in the world to guard him. And on top of it, they want to make other people beat you. Miami takes these matchups personally. Miami beat them by 37, the first to open the season this year. And they of course got swept in the postseason last year to this team. I feel like Giannis will have a better game than he usually does. I don't know though, man. It's struggling a little bit with this game in general, and I think it's going to be important to get it right. But I do want one of the big 3 for Miami that are left, and I potentially want Gabe Vincent as well.
So, how do you feel about a world where, well, this was before Phoenix came out? How would you feel about a world where the top projected point per dollar play and highest owned player on the slate is Trey Lyles? That's not
going to be the case as we know anymore, but yes, I hear you.
Yeah, that's not going to be the case anymore, but he might be the second highest owned, you know what I mean? Like, he's still 3,300 and projecting for some reason the 24 and 3/4 fantasy points.
Yep.
I suppose why is this the case? Well, I guess he must have been playing.
No,
right?
He's been playing because there's no that we haven't had Rashawn Holmes.
Well, he played 31 minutes in the last game,
which was again a revenge game against the team he was just on.
And he was 10 for 14 from the field. 6 rebounds. I can give him 6 rebounds. I can give him 2 assists. I'm not giving him 10 for 14 from the field though. I can't do that.
I wouldn't necessarily guarantee these minutes are a lock by any means.
And I would not guarantee these minutes are a lock either. So he's someone that I'm going to probably end up forcing out if I get too much of Trey Lyles. So that's that. Anything else on Sacramento, I don't really see. Nor do I see all that much. I have to have something from this game, no? I don't know. I really don't see too much. Maybe you could lead me to something in this game.
Love Fox. I think he's one of the best players on the slate at first look.
All right.
He's put up, what does he put up? His last 3, he put up out of the 3 games over 49, his last 4 matchups.
Sabonis,
a good matchup. Fox and Sabonis are both strong plays in my opinion. Probably going to skip everybody else, with the exception of mixing in some DiVincenzo. I still think that there's a time where he's going to end up getting 30 minutes one of these days. I think the same could be true for Mitchell, but he's a little bit of a lower usage guy with the way the lineup's currently constructed. But I don't know. I'm going to have I'm going to have some Lyles. It's going to be hard to totally avoid this.
What do you? I'm looking at this. You like any of this McCollum stuff or?
McCollum has been unbelievably good with this team, and the usage has been really, really solid. It's just they all eat into each. I mean, McCollum has been over 47 and he's been 3 games over 50 in his last 6. Like,
right.
He's a good play. It's a great matchup. I feel a little weird about playing him at high ownership at this price, but it is this current role is pretty. He's pretty good at it. I mean, he's pretty good with them. I would say one of McCollum, Ingram, and Valanciunas, and I would lean McCollum at first glance, but the low ownership on Valanciunas, I think that he could put up 50 against this front line that literally has Trey Lyles and Sabonis, who he should be able to just manhandle. So I probably will play one of those 3, and I think McCollum is going to look like the best play, but I'll definitely mix in some Brandon Ingram and some Joe Val, in my multi-entry stuff. But again, this is how I feel about a lot of plays tonight. There's not like guys I just automatically want to play. And what I said, but I want to go back to one thing. When I said the thing about Butler struggling against this team, I really like this position for Jimmy Butler. I like him in games that matter. I like him in, they're the number 1 team in the East still. They got to hold off these teams to maintain that. Milwaukee eliminated them from the playoffs. They're probably arguably their biggest competition to win the East this year, along with Philly and whatever you think about Brooklyn. I don't know about that one. But I really think that it's a spot where we usually really like Jimmy. And by the way, I want to say, while we say that Jimmy's struggled lately, I think there's a lot of, first of all, he hasn't played 30 minutes in either of the last 2 games, and they played a 3 and 4 nights, and they were blowing Chicago out, which is why he came out of the last game. He would have gotten there big time. He would have 50 plus fantasy points, probably against San Antonio as well, if they needed him to. So I still think Jimmy Butler, he's going to be really popular on FanDuel, but I think that I'm going to try and play a little bit of it. He's not the kind of player, like, again, they force you to shoot threes. He doesn't shoot threes. They're pretty good at, they're pretty good against guys who play in the mid range, which is where Jimmy Butler lives a lot. I just feel like this could be one of those triple double games where Jimmy really does have like that 35% usage. I did just want to go revisit that because he's the low owned guy I sort of am into tonight. But I also have a lot of concerns about it. So it's not like I'm just talking about having him like maybe 30% versus the 8% he's projected at right now.
Yeah.
OKC Denver, obviously this is an incredible matchup for Jokic. Do we think that, I mean, Denver's been awesome. They've been playing great. Do we think OKC has like been good against the spread? They've actually been in games for the most part, not every game, but they've been in most of their games lately. I'm struggling with what to do here as well. Shea is 10K, and I'm open to having a little Shea and Jokic lineup together. I also am open to a guy who's really projecting well is Poku, which just always makes me nervous because the minutes are just wild with the rest of these Thunder. And then you get Trey Mann at 5,600, who I think is a really interesting play. He's put up 34 or more in 4 out of the last 5, had a down game against Sacramento the other night. But yeah, I think Shea and Jokic are both great plays, but you do have to worry a little bit about the blowout.
So for me, the third highest point per dollar play on the slate is a guy named Olivier Sarr for Oklahoma City.
Wow.
He's a 3K flat center who is projected to play 22 minutes and currently 17% ownership. So we're going to have to probably do a little bit of.
You've got a very different thing than my current projection system right now.
Okay.
That's interesting.
His last game he played 26 minutes.
Yep.
Game before that he played 21 minutes and he's 3K flat. So that's what I have right now.
Wonder if Roby got in foul trouble or something in that game or something happened. I got to double check on that because
so that was my point. My point is that there's stuff I have to research. I mean, even the analysis here, it says for the second straight game, head coach deployed Sarr as the backup to starting center Isaiah Roby, while Derek Favors was left out of the rotation. So that's something we gotta keep an eye on, right?
Yeah, Favors has missed the last 2. Maybe they are finally going in full tank mode, and then on the other hand, they may end up starting Favors. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really hard to know what they're going to do with OKC.
So that's one thing. The second thing is, like you said, I do have Pukashevsky at as an okay value, whatever, but that comes with the risk that you described. On the Denver side, Jokic is going to be somewhat, I don't want to say dependent on the game staying close, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, he could score 55 to 60 fantasy points with, and blowing the team out as well. But if you wanted to have some, if you wanted to have some fun, you could play Jermichael Green, something like that. That could work. I have him projecting pretty well at only 3,400. Or if you really want to go blowout route, you could play something like Zeke Nnaji or something like that.
I think it'd be Cousins.
Oh, you think?
Cousins put up 40. What did he put up in the last game?
I had him in the last game.
41.5 in 17 minutes.
Yeah.
And you get him against a terrible front line where his usage, he had a 40% usage rate. He had the highest usage rate of any player that day.
He always does.
He always does, man. Even with this team, even with Denver. I mean, because he doesn't play with Jokic, obviously, on the court. But it's like they just turn him into Jokic. He actually has a higher usage rate than Jokic does. Like, it's crazy. He had 6 assists in 17 minutes. Like,
I have to go back and see how if I actually lost money that night, because I had like almost 100% of him.
Oh wow!
At 3K in that night. Yeah, you know what that was? Was that when I was away and I just put lineups in, didn't see what else I had. Yeah, I had a bunch of cousins that probably had like 3 other guys didn't play. That's probably right. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on Cousins as well. But I mean, are you gonna play Jokic?
I'm flirting with it. Like, I think that if I play Jokic, though, I might want to run back Shea. 10K is absolutely not too much for Shea, by the way. I mean, he could look at his numbers with Dort and Giddey off the court right now. Like, he put up 67 in the last game. He put up 60 the game before that. If Jokic has a big game, it's likely that Shea is having a big game on the other side. I'm sorry, if Jokic is playing in the fourth quarter, it's likely that Shea is having a big game on the other side.
Right.
I actually think Cousins being available hurts Jokic, because they can go through stretches without Jokic on the court now where they can sort of just keep running the same offense. Even though, look, I'm not saying Cousins is, and obviously defensively he's a huge liability, but he basically does, like, he plays the point center position just like Jokic does, just not as well, obviously, but he's incredibly, like, they can score without him. So that has me a little bit lower on Jokic. And if you look at the games lately, they're blowing people out, but partly it's because the second unit with Cousins, and then JaMychal Green had the big outlier game in the last one. He had 40 fantasy points. I don't think I can get to JaMychal Green. It's literally just a flyer play, the JaMychal Green thing. And the fact that he's going to have ownership, I'll take that flyer sometime when he won't have the ownership, you know? That's where I'm at on that anyway. I can't. Yeah.
So the Portland Phoenix game, I mean, it's there's a lot going on here. We already briefly touched on the Phoenix situation. Cameron Payne is going to be, going to project really well, to say the least. But with Paul and Booker out, I mean, quite naturally, the person I'd also want to play is DeAndre Ayton, right? So, I mean, I presume he's going to be owned pretty healthy fashion also. The guy I would ask about, again, I played him the other day. He really didn't do much, but I have to think guys like Keon Johnson would be, just naturally pick up usage, but I don't know what he's been doing recently. On the Portland side, I have as the second highest point per dollar play on a slate, a guy named Keon Johnson. Yeah. At 3,100. I don't know what he must have been doing something recently to warrant that. Let me just take a look real quickly. Yeah, well, we got 26 minutes at 3K. Give me 26 minutes at 3K. He was only 2 for 10 from the field. And it's very possible he can go 2 for 10 from the field again. So again, watch ownership, but I don't really have him owned, if you want to know the truth. So I gotta see what's going on with that. Then I also have projecting well is Drew Eubanks, who I honestly didn't even know was on Portland. So he's projecting pretty well too. So you could end up with this wild freaking game of reserves and bad players in the Portland Phoenix game, especially with both the top players from Phoenix out, where you're going to want a bunch of these guys. And the game is at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
So between that and, I mean, now is even more reason why I don't want to play in this Cleveland stuff early. I think. I think we do want to wait for some of this stuff to shake out.
Yeah, I agree with that overall. I don't know how they're gonna, like, currently I'm looking at Portland's projected starting lineup, and all of the, like, Eubanks will start. I would be really surprised if he doesn't. I think Keon Johnson probably will start. I don't think it's like a guarantee. There's still McLemore there. There's Brandon Williams they could play. They've got Greg Brown off the bench who's going to get some minutes. Even guys like Elijah Hughes, Trendon Watford. There's going to be minutes for these guys, and it's not like they're totally depleted of body. So low usage cheapos are just, it just feels like maybe the wrong slate when we've got all this Phoenix stuff.
Okay.
But like Campaign is going to project, and you're right. He might be a lot higher than 75% owned. It might be more like 95% owned. It's going to be a very difficult fade. Now, don't be shocked if Campaign doesn't start. Now, I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying don't be shocked if he doesn't and Aaron Holiday does. And that would make him a lower owned at least, I think, because they're the same price basically. But Aaron Holiday, I mean, all these guys are in play. But my ranking currently is Payne, Ayton, Cam Johnson.
Well, it even says here, well, hold on. It even says here, it says, given the length of his absence, he could face some limitations in his couple of games back. It's a campaign. So you gotta watch for this stuff, and that's also something that might not be determined until after lock.
Right.
I mean, you want to lock him in, and then at like 9:30 find out he's on a minutes limit of some kind.
Well, the good thing is you just leave 100 out there extra and you play Aaron Holiday, if not him.
Right. Okay.
Because Aaron Holiday should at least get some of those minutes. You know what I mean?
Unless you want to play them both, but
not the most exciting guy in the
Keon
world.
Johnson too, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I just would say, like, I'm going to play some Aaron Holiday anyway. I'm going to be playing. I mean, like, there's going to be a couple Phoenix players on most of my lineups as of right now. You can't take that type of usage away in a great matchup. And oh boy, I really think this is going to be a game you want to get a lot of pieces of, but you may not know what you might have. They might be different pieces than you think when you actually get starting lineups. And then, oh wait, campaign is going to be restricted to only 20 minutes, which, by the way, he's probably still a good enough play at 20 minutes at 4,300, but obviously doesn't become a must play. I mean, by any means. So it's a tricky situation to navigate here because they're going to have to put up some points.
Excuse me, I just saw this. I didn't realize we talked about this before. Elf Payton is on Phoenix, you know?
Yeah, and now he's projected to get some minutes, but he doesn't really play any minutes usually unless they're like blowing.
He'll play minutes if campaign is on a minutes limit.
Well, Aaron Holiday will more likely, who they traded for. Well, I mean, they haven't started Elfrid Payton in a game this season, I don't think. And Aaron Holiday has. It's interesting. I mean, it is weird that I'm looking back through Elf Payton's game log, and of course, the only good game he's had this season, guess who it was against? His former team, Orlando. Like, it's just crazy. You can't make this stuff up. Like, Trey Lyles just had his best game of the year. Of course, he's facing OKC, the team he just came from. You know what I mean? It's really funny. But I love Ayton and I love Payne. If Payne even plays 24 minutes, I think he's probably good enough, but it would give me some pause for concern. And you're going to end up with guys like Holiday, Shamet, who you're going to want in some of your like large field stuff, whether they start or not. And maybe Elf Payton does end up, maybe they do end up rolling with Payton at the end. If he's starting, I'm going to play Payton. Don't get me wrong, but we're not going to know all this stuff till later. So you might be forced to do some funny things, which is why I would encourage people to try to backload your lineups if you can. It's pretty doable today because the most interesting early game is the Indiana-Orlando game, but all the players are sort of mispriced because guys have been out and situations are different and Markelle Fultz is back and all that stuff. So I do think that trying to focus on that later game is probably the best way to go.
And touch again on this, on the Portland stuff. So I'm trying to think of other guys like Josh Hart, maybe.
Yeah, I think that Simons and Hart are both strong plays now.
Okay.
They're not the same team defensively when you take out and Booker, by the way, has become a good defender. But Chris Paul is a big part of what they do defensively. Bridges is a good defender. Crowder is a good defender, but those aren't guarding the positions that you're going to try to attack, which are going to be Simons and Hart.
Right.
So I guess the Bridges would guard one of those guys probably, but.
What do you think of Ayton? I only mention him because
I love Ayton. I just said I love him. He'll be a priority play for me.
Right. No, I only ask because I worry about guys that I would say they're reliant on assists, but it helps when like Chris Paul is there. I think. I don't think that he picks up as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but he doesn't have the ball in his hands. You know what I mean? Like, so. He gets set up really nicely by Chris Paul a lot. So when he's out, I wonder if it's that big of a bump to Ayton. But I guess we could figure that out.
I think without Paul and Booker, it's a huge bump because it's just the usage has to go somewhere. And he's not like a guy he's not just a lob dunk guy. Like he's a very, very skilled in the post. He can shoot. Okay. So I think they would run their offense basically through him
and what about the guy I mentioned before? What do you think of Keon Johnson?
Like, I like the idea of the play. The problem with him is he's just so shooting reliant. And look, he's been hot, so he's putting up fantasy points. He made four out of 6 threes in the last game. But that's sort of what he does. He's been better with the assist this year though. So maybe he's even a stronger play. I think he's a really good play. I think he's going to be like 35% owned.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I think that all these guys, I think he'll be 35%. I think Ayton will be 35 or 40%. I think Payne will be 90% ish, depending on if we hear a minutes limit. The guys who won't be as owned will be Crowder, Aaron Holiday, Shamet, and potentially an Elfrid Payton if he gets run.
Do you have the patience to hold off, in the 2,500? To these late games? I think that you have to.
I agree.
I think that you have to, and I think that guys like Campaign. I think that those guys, because of you know, I don't want to say the uncertainty, whatever it is, I think they're, I don't know. I have a feeling they're going to be lower on than 90-80%. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, he's projecting. I'm looking at a projection of him at 39 fantasy points.
Well, right, but what I'm just saying though is, I mean, like, yeah, you could project him at that if you knew he was getting full run, right?
Right.
We just don't know. I see. It's a note right in the DraftKings app saying that he could be face limitations. So
I hear you. I'm with you.
I want something.
I'm going to have to do some digging, and that's what, you know, one of the things I have to do before, and hopefully I can find stuff out. Maybe I will be able to, maybe I won't be able to, but I will try to do that for 545. I'm going to keep doing the 545 sheets and to start, and then we can hand off if you're able to, or whatever, just because it does help with the lineup building and able to focus more on the group. So I'm going to try to do that. But let me look real quick
at FanDuel and see if there's anything that stood out there that was different. You know what? You touched on some of it, like
Brogdon and Butler.
You identified Bamba,
yep,
as being a better play on FanDuel. And one guy that's showing up, Bojan Bogdanovic from Utah shows up as a better play. And then a guy who again, we didn't talk about too much in the Knick game, because I guess he's never done anything for us, is Alec Burks.
I do like Alec Burks a little bit, especially going back to Philly, but I worry about that, you know, I don't know. It feels a little bit, he's been so like non-productive. It's kind of scary, and his usage is just like non-existent. But I think he's an okay play. I think he's a better play on FanDuel at the 4,600. I'll play him over there. So I have Burks, Jokic, Butler, Mo Bamba, Brogdon, Embiid, Campaign, all being awesome plays on FanDuel. That's what I've got right now.
Okay.
But good luck to everybody. We will be out with a golf video shortly, and I need you back, Sheets. My first losing week in golf in literally like a year and a half. I've had little losses, but this was a really bad one.
For me, I mean, we talked about this. We'll talk about it in the golf. We'll talk about results when we do the golf video.
Okay, sounds good. All right, good luck to everybody. We'll see you at 5:45.